grade teachers, you can go ahead and get started. It looks like the recording's working.
I don't know if Sarah is down here yet, but she is on slide 1 as an intro.
Yeah.
I don't
Yes.
see Sarah here yet.
She's here.
She's here. Okay.
Miss Evans. I'm not sure if she can hear us. Maybe she's having technical difficulty. If somebody else could go ahead and get us started.
Yes, I will go ahead and get us started. I just saw that she was trying to respond, but she is having some problems with Jigsaw not working properly for her. But I will go ahead and introduce. Welcome. We are first grade, so if you have a first grade student, you've come to the right place. And we're talking about curriculum tonight. And we are going to start off with language arts.
I think Sarah, I think that slide is actually officially empty, but I can go over these if you want, Brandy.
You're saying Sarah was this slide as well?
Do it.
Was Sarah supposed to be doing this slide as well?
Maybe.
I can't even find my name in the attendees box again to turn off my webcam. It's like jumping all over the place. I think that might be what many others are.
It's okay. It's because the room is really full. So it is. Learning coaches, we appreciate your patience. The attendee list keeps moving and it's hard for us to grab it. But Miss Lawrence, that would be fantastic if you would just go ahead. Thank you so much.
Okay, so hi, you guys. I'm Miss Lawrence, another first grade teacher. The sun is really bright in my window, so I apologize about the lights on my face. I'm not used to teaching at this time. The first thing we're going to go over is some challenging state standards. So these things are difficult standards for our first grade students. There's Miss Evans. Hello, Miss Evans. So I'm going to just go over the first difficult standard or challenging standard that some of our kiddos have trouble with, and that is writing. And it's nonfiction text features and parts of speech. So with common and proper nouns and prepositions, which is some things we've already gone over so far. Something you guys can do at home to help your students is describe words like, for example, something sweet, salty, tall, hot, cold, etc., and reading and using common and proper nouns. Another standard that the students seem to struggle with in ELA is from guided reading. So asking and answering questions about a text, which we've also already gone over a lot in guided reading, using our 5 W words: who, what, when, where, why, and how. Something that you guys can do for your kiddos at home is when reading books with your students, you can stop and ask them those questions in the story. So who is the story about? What is the story about? When did the story happen? Where is the story at, the setting? Why and how? So that's some good things to do for that. For phonics, some things that the students, standards that they struggle with is, or that's something that you can do with your students if they're struggling with phonics, is have them read every single night. This will help them improve their reading fluency throughout the year. So teachers will be utilizing 3 ELA blocks this year. I'm sure you guys have already noticed. And each block will focus on specific Georgia standards. We will be doing small groups in guided reading and weekly in writing and phonics. To all of our teachers will be using high impact practices through live instruction, and high impact practices include things like higher order thinking questions, academic discussion, and evidence-based writing. So that is all of slide 2, and I think Miss Anna or Miss Hart is going to take over for slide 3, I believe, or 4. Yeah. I'm not sure if she can find the top, but these are some resources that we also use in ELA. We use Moby Max consistently, almost every day. We use Learning A to Z. Sora is our library that we use, where our students can go in and check out books from Sora. Something else we're using is Learn Zillion. You guys have already seen us using Vocabulary and Brain Pop Junior as well. All right, so here is math.
Hey guys, I'm Miss Hart. I'm one of the first grade teachers here. And so I'm going to talk to you about some of the challenging state standards for math. So some of the things that we've noticed to be the most challenging for our students are basic addition and subtraction, but more specifically, those comparing word problems, things like how many more or how many fewer. And so to address this issue, we have started implementing high impact practices. And what that includes is higher order thinking questions, academic discussions like number talks, evidence-based writing for math instruction. An example of that would be the RICE strategy. And this is a strategy that allows the students to restate the question, illustrate and create a picture, calculate, and explain their answer. So really digging deep into those word problems. We're also using vocabulary that is consistent with those Georgia standards. We're using engaging and rigorous platforms to go in and reinforce those standards that are covered in class. And your students can work through individualized learning paths so that we can better meet your students' specific learning needs. An example of one of those platforms that we're using is Zern, which is something new this year, and students are going to be working in that each week. Moby Max is also a supplemental platform that teachers are going to be using as well. And some things that you can do at home are practice at home reviewing those action words in word problems that signal for addition and subtraction, such as in all or all together, take away, find the difference, things like that. And definitely, I strongly encourage you to use those manipulatives, and especially with those manipulative kits when they come, or just finding things around the house, and also just playing some fluency games to help build their fact fluency. So up next, we're going to talk about the platforms that are used in Clever. I'm not sure whose slide this is.
Slide either, so you can go ahead and talk about those if you want.
Okay, so some Clever apps and resources that we are using in math. Again, we talked about Zern and we talked about Moby Max. Those are probably our biggest go-tos. Vocabulary, if anyone is in Ms. Hart's class, you guys know that vocabulary is my jam. I absolutely love vocabulary. I always have to start my day with a vocabulary. They're just super catchy. I love Brain Pop Junior. I love hanging out with Moby. And then again, Education Galaxy is really fun. And then Learn Zillion, which is another new platform as well. And here's Miss Hickox.
Hi, guys. All right, I'm another first grade teacher, Miss Hickox. Let's look at our science challenging state standards. All right, starting off, engage students in questioning, analyzing things around them, analyze scientific data, identify how and why magnets attract or repel, plan and carry out simple investigations to understand patterns like shadows, sound, weather, etc. Make predictions based on investigations. Some things that students can practice at home, using magnets at home, see what things are magnetic, question and analyze magnets. Also, view shadows at different times throughout the day and see what you can discover. Thanks, guys.
Miss McKinney, are you able to grab the microphone?
All right. Oh, there we go. Now we got someone. I wasn't sure. Oh, someone. I think there is a big delay.
Okay.
There we go.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Angie Payne. Very glad to be here, a new first grade teacher. And I'd like to just spend a couple of minutes to talk to you about our challenging state standards for social studies. So we begin by talking about city, county, state, nation, and country, and as well as the continent, and understanding the difference between a map and a globe. And we've had a lot of fun the first couple of weeks doing that. I think all of our first graders now can tell you where they live, what state they live in, their nation, their continent, and they can certainly tell you the difference between a map and a globe. We'll also be talking about the topographical features of the Earth's surface. And when we talk about that, we're talking about mountains, hills, valleys, lakes, rivers, cities, dams, and roads. We'll also talk about the continents, the 7 continents, and I believe that's where we have been this week. Continents and oceans, and those include the North America, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, Antarctica, and Australia, and also the major oceans, Arctic, Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, and we are beginning to recognize the Southern Ocean as our 5th ocean. Also, we'll be talking about patriotism, and we actually take a moment every day to reflect. And I usually say to my children, this is a nice time just to have a quiet moment and reflect upon what we'd like to accomplish for the day. And so when we can, this is really, I think, an excellent time to connect real world experiences. For instance, when they hear the national anthem sung at a sports event, or America the Beautiful, and they can use the vocabulary. You can talk with them about brotherhood, liberty, freedom, pride, etc. So these are real world connections that we can begin to make with our students. Also, we'll be talking about producers and consumers. And so, of course, what we mean by that is junior economics. You know, what do we buy? Goods and services. We use goods to satisfy needs and wants. What do we pay for? And so those are, again, real world connections that you can make with your students, even as you're going to the grocery store, shopping, running errands, and taking care of family business. So practicing at home, we can do things like our continents game, our oceans game. I happen to love YouTube. There are a lot of really cute videos out there that talk about and discuss and sing about and clap about really cute songs about patriotism, the continents, oceans, all of those kinds of things. So they're very easy to pull up. And again, you can always talk about things that you made. You can use things that you've made or purchased to talk about any of these things in social studies, but certainly to talk about producing and consuming. And so I think that we're going to have a great year. They are challenging standards, but at the same time, they're a lot of fun. And I love social studies because you can use it to really connect what they're doing in class with their real world experiences. So I think that's it for social studies for this year. And again, we use these same clever apps and resources. The Gallopade, I know, has been a little bit of a challenge for us, but we're working through it. I love the resource because there is wonderful information there. Vocabulary, I love. Learning A to Z, we can certainly use all of these resources, Education Galaxy, to enhance your students' learning. And I know we're going to make it a lot of fun for social studies. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it on.
All right, guys. Now, hi, Miss Lawrence here again. I'm going to go over some of the challenging state standards that kiddos struggle with art and PE. I don't teach art and PE, but I know my kiddos love it. They're always showing me what they do in art, and sometimes we do fun activities that maybe are similar to PE, like during morning meetings. Sometimes we do like push-ups, and with fluency, like back fluency and things like that, push-ups, sit-ups, all that kinds of fun stuff. So I do know that they enjoy it, but the things that they struggle with for art, for example, is engaging in the creative process to generate and visualize ideas by using subject matter and symbols to communicate meaning. All right, so that's the first art standard that some of the students struggle with or are challenging. The second thing is to understand and apply media techniques, certain techniques that you can use, that they use in process of two-dimension art, so 2D art. The third thing that students seem to have a hard time with is demonstrating an understanding of the safe and appropriate use of materials, tools, and equipment for a variety of artistic processes. All right, so for PE, the challenging standards that we have found first is for students to demonstrate knowledge and skills to help achieve and maintain a health-enhancing level of physical activity and fitness. The second one is demonstrate the ability to use decision-making skills to enhance health. And the third is practicing it at home. The fourth standard is staying active and making good food choices. So I think we've got Miss Jackson next.
Okay. All right, and we have the state and GCA assessments. The number of assessments is similar to what is done in brick and mortar. As you can see, we have the GCA interim assessments, which we refer to as IAs. IAs are like unit tests that students complete in brick and mortar. The week for the IAs is September the 13th through the 17th. We also have gradual release of responsibility to read tests independently. We also have the math growth in reading and in math, and we have math reading fluency. We take them in August, December, and May. Now we use the data to plan for our small groups and differentiated instruction. Our groups are fluent, and we use data from these assessments, as well as assessments completed in class and modules to edit groups as needed.
Give Miss Saunders a second and see if she's able. Thank you, Miss Hart. If Miss Saunders is able to grab the microphone, I appreciate you jumping on. And thank you, learning coaches, for your patience with some of these little glitches tonight. There's a lot of us in the room, which is wonderful, but sometimes things like this happen.
Oh,
Here she is.
I'm so sorry. I was like, I had my name, and then all of a sudden the list started moving. I lost it. All right. Well, I'm glad I could come on tonight. And so basically, I'll be just reviewing with you about one of our assessments in Illuminate. And so it's called our IAs. And so just going over basically the format for the test. And so we call it the gradual release of responsibility. And so on here, we just want to give a list of our dates for our tests. And so we have one in September, we have one in October, December, February, March, and May. And so basically, we just want to remind you parents that the test is read to them. And so as time goes and as they continue to grow, then they're going to eventually, as you can see, be able to independently, have the test for them to read the test. And so as you can see for math, as it says here, that the full test is read aloud coming up in September. So that is great. But as we go, as I mentioned before, October, first half of the test is read, aloud. And then as we go further into the second half is read independently, because we want them to, of course, read on their own. And, we want to help, see their growth basically as teachers. And I'm sure you do as well, parents. And so by December to May, the entire test is read independently by the student. And that's for each course in ELA Science and Social Studies. So basically, this just goes over with you, our gradual release. We want you to know that, the test, the platform itself, it is read to them. But as time goes, we would love to see their growth. And so we would love for them to independently read so that we can, as teachers, assess them and prepare them for second grade.
Hello, my name is Mrs. Campbell. Thank you, Melody. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about what your students, the schedule will look like during the assessment week. So they will attend their homeroom class from 8 to 8:20. They will log out of their homeroom classroom and go into their IA testing room. And that testing room is open from 8:25 to 11. And your student does not have to be logged in the entire time. When they are finished with the test, they're welcome to log out. Then they'll have a lunch break like they normally do from 11:55 to 12:55. And then in the afternoon, they'll have 2 live classes from 12:55 to 1:40 and then 1:50 to 2:35. Now this schedule is just for Monday through Thursday during the testing blocks. But on Friday, your student will resume their regular schedule.
So now I'm going to tell you how you are going to be monitoring your students' progress. This is what I know many of you are very curious about and want to know on a day-to-day basis. How is my student doing? Well, in Canvas, you can go into your courses and you can go to your modules. And so inside your modules, you'll see where your assignments are listed every day. Some of these assignments may not be on the calendar, so you're going to want to use your modules. The things you'll see on the calendar will be live classes and your graded work. However, you also have daily work that you can access within the module. So your graded work always will start with the word graded, and that's how you'll know just by looking because it tells you that it's graded. So it goes in the grade book and it is required. You want to do your graded work on the day that it is due. If you do not submit it on the day that it is due, you have 5 days to work on this, and you'll only be able to get 70%. So I highly suggest you make sure that you are looking at your Canvas calendar as well, just to make sure you're not missing any of those graded assignments, because those you want to get done on the day that they are due. After 5 days, it will go into the grade book as a 0. So you definitely want to make sure that you stay on top of your students' assignments so that they get their work completed. In addition to the graded work is daily work. In our daily work in your modules, you will be able to find, it starts with the word daily. It's right there for you, so you can tell the difference between something that's graded or something that's daily. And the daily work is strongly suggested and it's important, but it's optional as a resource. So it is not going to go into, or not going to be graded, but it is highly suggested that you do it so that your student better understands the standards that we are teaching. Also, you will see there's like this little link symbol and there's a module number, and those are our FLVS lessons, and they're also part of the daily work. It's important to note that within this lesson in the modules, there are some things that your student may want to do to help further their understanding on the, what's it called, the lesson for the day. But if it's something that they're really, you know, that you feel that they understand, they don't have to do every single piece of each lesson each day. We do break up some of our lessons so that they can work on them for a couple days in a row. But I also just wanted to make sure, you know, like they do have some assignments that say print off. Those are great and suggested for a resource for your student when needed, but those are not required when you're doing your work if your student understands the concepts. Materials for class. We suggest to have a whiteboard so they can work on a whiteboard with a dry erase marker. We also have journals, or we'll call those journals sometimes an interactive notebook. It's the same thing. They can have a notebook, a spiral notebook, or a composition notebook, something to write in for each of their classes. Or we say they can use paper. If they don't have their journal, they don't have something, they can use paper, but they definitely need to have something because we do a lot more writing in first grade, so they need something that they can show their work and practice. And that is it for me.
All right. Thank you. With us through some of those little technical fun things this evening. I'm going to put this link in the chat box, and then in just a moment we're going to get started with some Q&A for you, an opportunity for you to ask some questions. So let me get this added real quick. If you'll just complete this, you might see this in another room if you've been in multiple rooms, but if you'll just complete this once this evening, we appreciate you completing the survey. And we'll get started in just a moment with Q&A. As I shared in the main room, I want to share this again in case you are just joining us. We are going to answer questions tonight about primary curriculum. So in this room, we're focused on first grade. Any questions that you have with any of your courses, maybe some of the Clever platforms that we use, something about Canvas, any of those academic types of questions are the types of questions that we can answer for you tonight. And we are happy to do that. So we will open up the chat box in just a moment. Sometimes the chat, there can get to be lots of questions in there at once. So our teachers are going to help with responding. But if we get a lot of questions in there, we might close it for a minute so that we can catch up and answer some of those. So you might see us do that and then open it back up. If you would like to get on the microphone to answer a question, if you'll go ahead and raise your hand, Mrs. Saunders is going to help us go in order of those hands raised to help us just get organized and make sure that we can get to everybody. So we can go ahead and open up the chat box as well. And I'm going to help answer questions. And Miss Baca, I appreciate you. She's going to help me also. And let's just get started. I see someone typing. Yes. Okay, awesome. Thank you for entering a question, Ms. Rivera. The IA tests are graded tests. So your student will actually get 2 scores in the grade book for those tests. Your student gets a score just for completing it. So right off the bat, your student's going to get 100 in the grade book for completing their test. And then there's a separate score that is their actual score. And teachers are preparing students for those tests in the weeks prior. You'll also have a study guide provided, and they'll give you suggestions of specific things that would be helpful to practice at home, just as they do with everything. Um, so that is how they will help you to prepare for those tests. And just as they shared with the reading, in first grade in general, it's a great idea to let your students try to read things first, and then you support them when they're doing even their daily assignments, so that when they are working on the test, they can work on that reading independently. And like Ms. Saunders shared, the first test, they will have it read to them, but gradually they're going to read more and more on those IAs. Let's see. I'm looking in the chat here. Oh, it's going so fast. Some of you might need to raise your hand, would help too on the microphone. I'm going to do my best here. What happened to the grades tab in Canvas that we had last year? Okay. You should still have the grades tab with individual assignments, but we're not letting the overall score show in there because it wasn't always accurate. Your most accurate posted grade, the official grade, and overall grade is in Infinite Campus. So you can still see the assignments, but Infinite Campus is the best place to go. We didn't want those overall grades showing in 2 different places. Sometimes the way it was calculated and the weights, and there's a lot of details that go into the grade book, it was making different grades in different spots, and we do not want that. We want you to have the most accurate information. Let me see if I can pull out the chat here and open it up a little bigger on my other screen. There we go. That'll help me to see this better. Let's see. Once the child completes the work in the module, is there a chance to move on to the next lesson? Or is there a way to access additional practice work for the current lesson? Ms. Vaca, can you help me with that? What would you suggest is the best way to get additional practice? It's a great question. Can you try your microphone again? Sorry.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear it now?
Yes.
Okay. So if you're referring to the lesson as the FLVS module lesson, I think that's what you're talking about there. There, included with the lesson each day, there is daily work that we add. And so a lot of times you will see extra, especially in math, I know a lot of times we put that there is extra practice for whatever we're working on for the day, but then there's also like a challenge if they're ready for a challenge. But there's always, in addition to the lesson that's in your modules, there is also either it'll tell you to go to Learning A through Z and read a book, or it'll tell you to go into Moby Max and complete a specific lesson. So there are additional things other than just the lesson. And we do give class time to work on a lot of our module work.
Yep, I would say a lot of the clever programs, like she mentioned, Moby Max, they're all specific. They have, a lot of them have learning paths specific to your student. So that is really awesome because it allows them to go further if they need to. It knows if they need more help on something. So that's always a great resource for you to use. Let's see what other, we have if anybody wants to hop on the microphone, feel free to raise your hand too. I'm gonna look in the chat so that we can answer some more questions in here. Someone asked about the attendance survey. You can put your student or parent name on there. I believe I see there lower on it, it does ask you to specify who is filling out the survey. So you would be able to, you could just put your name and then you'll be able to check mark parent when you get down there. The end of the year grade is determined by all of the grading categories within. And if you would take a look at the GCA website, maybe somebody can grab the link there for the student handbook would be helpful. There is a detailed breakdown in there of all the types of grades and the categories and what they're weighted as. So some of the basics like that we talked about today are the daily grades, daily graded assignments, the IAs, the participation grade of completing required assessments. Student also gets an engagement grade for participating in class and attending. So those are some of the main categories. There is another category for bigger projects and other types of assignments that they complete. Let's see. Map testing. That is a great question from Erica G. Map testing will also occur again in December and then again in May. So map testing is done 3 times a year, and we are just about to close the window so that we can pull the score reports and send you more detailed information. So that is coming up. That's actually happening this week. That's why we haven't sent it yet, but that will be coming from your homeroom teacher. And the reason that we do map again a couple times is because it is called the map growth assessment. And you're going to be so excited by the growth that we see from your student in December. And wow, wait till you see in May what they started at right now and then where they have gone in May. The thing that I love about map too is it gives a lot of great information as far as if they're on grade level and things like that. But really the growth piece is what I think is so impactful because we know that all of our students can make growth no matter where they are. So even if it's a content that they're struggling in or that they've needed some more support in, I feel very confident and I know that our program really works. Our teachers will help your student and your student will make growth wherever they are at in that map assessment. Let's see. Hold on, the chat's moving. Let me see. Thank you so much for putting the handbook in there, the link, Miss Campbell. So that's where you can find more detailed information about grades. If you have ever, I saw the question about logging in to Jigsaw. If you log into class and your teacher is not here, you can reach out to your FEL and they will let one of us know right away. And sometimes that does happen, if they're having a problem getting into Jigsaw or if an emergency has happened or something like that. So if you will absolutely not be penalized for attendance if something like that happens. Let's see. Yes, Jessica, good question about physical materials. So the Gallopade workbooks do start in 3rd grade. But in primary, students receive, and in 1st grade specifically, your student will receive some phonics manipulatives, some, I believe it was letter tiles and some things that they can move around and use on the table and with their webcam with the teacher. And then we also have something similar for math where they will receive some math manipulatives. And we do provide a writing journal specific to your grade level too. So those things are coming in September. We always, we have so much enrollment going on right now that we kind of let that settle down a little and we ship everything all out at once. And the great thing about it is too that we provide all the same things to our teachers. So when you receive those supplies, go ahead and kind of organize them how you want. You might want to just put them in a little container or something near your school area where your student goes to school in your home. And then you can have them ready so that when the teacher pulls out those snap cubes during class, during math, you can grab those too and your student's ready to work with them as well. So you can kind of have that in your space. Let's see, what else? I saw some great suggestions. Thank you, Ms. Hart, for the testing question. Do you want to answer that or you had something else? Feel free.
Well, Ms. Bailey, I had a question for you because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to say this wrong. But if I'm not mistaken, the counselors in their session are going to discuss testing anxiety and tips that you can do to reduce that anxiety as well.
I believe that they are, and if you'll help me remember after this, I'll definitely reach out to our counselors and make sure. But I think you're right. I'm pretty sure they are, and we can make sure that they do. I know that's always something that they cover every year. And this year, we're super excited that our counseling team has grown, and we have a kindergarten counselor, a first grade counselor, and a second grade counselor. Um, Last year, we had one counselor in K to 2, so we're super excited to have one per grade level. And in September, starting at when we return after Labor Day, your first grade counselor will be having sessions with you in the morning on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So we're going to update more information as that is coming. But yeah, they'll be covering lots of things like that. And I know that testing, sorry, Jigsaw was doing something funny. I know that testing anxiety or the stress of that can be very overwhelming for our kiddos. And I know with so many things too, you've gotten some great suggestions in the chat. It's also, I know as a mom myself, I try to do everything I can in the environment and with what I do to try to relieve some of that. I know that's not always possible. And I'm sure you do those same things too. But for us, the IA week, it feels kind of different because it's a different schedule and they take that test in the morning. But the reason that we do that and that we modify the schedule a little bit is that we're trying to take off some of that pressure by giving them as much time as they need to they're in Jigsaw, then they have to get logged into their into Illuminate, the platform where you take the test. And we don't want them to be stressed out in having, a short amount of time to even get into the test and then to take it. So we try to relieve some of that pressure by that as well. And the IAs are really, as your teacher shared earlier, pretty similar to like an end of unit test or a quiz. It's very similar to what you might take in brick and mortar with those. It just feels kind of different here because we have a testing week and it, makes it feel a little more formal. And I get that too. But if you can just try to tell your student that these are just tests and maybe quizzes, things that we do to go over what we've already learned, to show what you know. And your teacher is so proud of you no matter what happens on those tests. We all are. And we just use those to plan going forward. It helps us. We analyze the data and we look at how many students miss certain questions. And okay, well, those are questions that we're going to go back and work on and cover again and help them. So we understand where you're coming from with that. And we will support you as a parent in the best way that we can with that too, and how we communicate positively about it and try to relieve some of that stress. Let's see. The counseling sessions are like homeroom sessions. They're groups of homerooms all together. But if you do have something, that you want to talk to the counselor about with just your student, absolutely reach out to them. That's something you can definitely do. And I encourage you to do. And in first grade, remind me, first grade teachers, is it Miss Gullickson? I have to look it up. I believe it is Miss Gullickson is the first grade counselor. That is new to us this year, so. Benjamin, I see your question about daily work and modules. So we do suggest, I understand what you're saying about checking it less frequently. I would check it more than once a month, at least every few days or weekly when possible. Like Ms. Baca said, we know that some of the modules, they're great. They have lots of awesome resources, but they are very, very lengthy, some of them. So if you aren't able to complete every single page, if your student is not able to, we don't want that to be a stress either. We know they're in classes throughout the day. They have other work, maybe multiple assignments sometimes to complete. So just do your best and use that resource as much as possible. And like she said, also, if there's something in there, you might look at the components of it. If there's something in there that your student is really, maybe it's rhyming, they're doing really well with that. They're just like flying through it quickly. Then move on to the next, and don't feel like you have to go through every single rhyming example in there. Maybe the next activity is something more of what they need extra practice with. So that's kind of what we're saying there. Let's see. I'm looking through the chat. If anyone would like to hop on the microphone, feel free. Just raise your hand for us and let us know. Trying to see the. Oh, I do see some hand raised. I'm sorry. The the chat, the participants had scrolled way down. Okay. Camille, if you'll go ahead.
Don't think there was a Camille, but I do see a Benjamin.
Hi. So you pretty much answered most of my concern about the modules, but earlier when Miss Baca, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, was speaking, I accidentally got booted out right as she was saying something about the modules. Was she saying that the graded things, and I know those have to be completed, but do they have to be completed that exact day, or can I like do it on the weekend when we have time?
So graded assignments are due on the day. We do give time during class to work on that. I know a lot of times I tell my students, hey, math class, we ran over, but you know what? In our next class, we may have time at the end of the class. And I usually, for my students, I remind them at the end of that class, hey, we have work time right now. Once you finish your assignments that we have during our work time, you can go ahead and do that math quiz if you haven't got to it earlier. So for the daily work, that is the assignments that are suggested and they are optional. But those graded assignments do need to be completed on the day they are due. If they are submitted late, then there will be points deducted. So that's why we really want to make sure that you focus on that graded work. So if you want to kind of skip over some of the daily work, that's for additional practice. If your student already understands the concepts being taught, they can skip over some of the things that we're offering. Just think of those as resources for you to use if what we did during class wasn't quite enough for them to understand. Maybe in the module they explain something differently and that we taught, and maybe they would be able to grasp the concept better. So those are some things that we definitely suggest using. But if it's something your students understand or not have a problem, say it's that rhyming, like Miss Bailey was saying, if they've got rhyming, and the daily work today is on rhyming, so you don't need to spend time on that. But they do have a rhyming graded quiz today, so let me go ahead and send them off to do that assignment. So you can see your graded work on your Canvas calendar. But before doing that assignment or that quiz, make sure they understand everything that was taught. And they can always, use that daily work to review before taking a quiz or doing and completing an assignment.
I did want to add to about the graded assignments, because I've seen this coming up a couple times in the chat. As far as the assignments and their due date, they are due the day that they are put on the calendar. But if you have an emergency or you have something going on, you're sick, or you just can't do it that day, we only see that you didn't submit it. So if you reach out to us and just tell us, hey, this is what's going on, I can't do it today, but I can get it in first thing in the morning, or you've just got an emergency, communicate that to your teacher and they will definitely work with you on that. And then the other thing that I see Miss Jessica said, should we do the quizzes and the graded assignments before class? I would say that that's honestly just up to you. The one thing that I say that I like to tell my kids as far as of how the modules and everything goes is I give you the lesson and I supply your toolbox with what you need in class that day. And then the module is just to reinforce that lesson that I taught for today. So if you really struggled with that lesson or you're not sure the topic, I would wait until after we've taught it. Because you might miss something or see something different, and I wouldn't want that to affect their score or anything.
That's awesome advice. Our teachers are the best. Both for that. I also saw some questions in the chat about the IA time for the assessment. For those of you that have been here, the test is timed when it begins. So it we have two IAs in the fall and then a midterm. And then in the spring semester we have another two IAs and then a final. The midterm and the final are not timed. There's not a timer on those. I did pull up on the others, so I'm looking over here. In math, for example, the first IA that will take in September, there are 70 minutes for your first grader to be able to complete that test. So just tell your student you have plenty of time and try to assure them that they'll be able to finish, that there's plenty of time for them to take the test. But it does illuminate, and it does not start until they start their test and they're actually logged and ready to begin.
I had just two more questions about the modules, and they covered a lot. My last two questions about modules are this. I know how it lets you take the quiz again. Is the first time they do it, like say they get 70%, is that the one that stays in the books? Or if they want to try better and do it again and they get 100%, is that the one that stays in the books? And before you answer that, my very last question about the modules, since you guys say that the graded quizzes do need to be completed that day unless there's something going on, is there a certain day of the week that I should watch for the graded ones? Thank you.
Ms. Baca, if you'll speak to that, I know you know more of.
Yes. Oh, did you say Anna? It glitched for a minute. Did you say Anna? Okay, sorry. So what I suggest to do is, because we do post the modules the Friday before the class starts. So if you look over the weekend or look first thing Monday morning at your Canvas calendar for the week, you can see what is due for the entire week and what day it's due. Different assignments are going to be due different days every single week. It just depends on what we're working through. But you can look ahead of time and look Monday morning, first thing, at everything that is going to be taken for a grade for the entire week. All in one place on your Canvas calendar. Now, I may be mistaken, but is there only one chance for the quizzes this year? That's what I was thinking. This year, we are not giving multiple attempts to take the quiz. It's really important that we know and have an accurate representation if the students don't understand. And it's okay if they get a 60 because they don't understand. So that we can go back and look at what they missed and what they are not understanding so we can reteach that. If we wind up seeing, hey, they got all 100s, but then it comes time for the interim assessment, and all of a sudden they didn't actually know, and we could have spent time reviewing some of the things that they weren't so sure about. So it's definitely important that we get a more accurate representation of what they know from the get-go, so we know how to help them.
I see another good question in the chat from Erica. What's the difference between MAP testing and IA testing? So that is a great question. MAP is an adaptive test, which means that it changes based on how your student answers, and no two students are taking the same test. So if
I think we lost her. All right. So yes, those tests are different. Interim assessment is what we have just taught, what standards we have been teaching. The MAP assessment is to see their growth from the beginning of the year, checking their progress mid-year, and then by the end of the year, what they have learned. So those are different tests. The MAP test is adaptive. So if they know and get several right, it's just going to continue getting more challenging. If they get some wrong, it'll get a little bit easier. So every student's MAP test is going to just depend on how the student answers the questions. Whereas the interim assessment, every single student's going to get the exact same question because it's standards based.
I love all the nice comments in the chat and shout outs to your teachers. Thank you for that. And I appreciate you jumping in, Miss Baca. I don't know what happened. I just got booted out of the room, but I was able to come back in easily. Yes, but like they said, the biggest difference is that MAP is adaptive. It's different for everybody. IAs are created by our curriculum department, and all of our students take the same test, have the same questions. My teacher friends, can you help with this question about what's the best way to prepare for upcoming lessons and objectives for class? That's a great question.
Lessons that we're about to teach.
Yes, and then
I didn't see the question. I was trying to figure out exactly what the question was asking.
Yes, and Ms. Hart just put a good answer in there that first grade is starting to send out newsletters. So that will be a great resource to prepare you for the upcoming standards and objectives.
Yes, we try to send those newsletters out like the Friday, that Friday, so that you can see what's coming up and what's going on for the following week so that you can be prepared. We also put any graded assignments that are listed on there as well so that you can see what you have coming up and what you need to start preparing for the following week.
We're checking the chat for any other questions, and if anyone wants to hop on the microphone, feel free to raise your hand. The attendance survey, thank you, Ms. Veronica, just put that in there again. So if you have not filled that out, we appreciate you filling that out for tonight's meeting. We have about 10 more minutes.
I think I see Jessica B had a question. Maybe, unless we already answered it. Oh, there she is.
Well, I'm not sure if you guys answered it or not while Jigsaw was acting up. I got kicked out a few times. But my question is about the IA assessments. I know with the MAP assessment, we're supposed to just kind of let them go with it and it's adaptive. But the IA assessments are different. And my kid is still learning how to read. So how do we as a learning coach help them through that test?
That's a great question. So in the same way,
Uh-oh.
want your
Are you guys still there?
to complete their MAP test on their own, they need to complete their IA assessment on their own as well. And that is something that the curriculum department, when they create the test, that they review very
Hello?
carefully for. Are y'all able to hear me okay? Okay, thank you. They
Okay, you
review
can
very
hear me,
carefully what kind
right?
of vocabulary and on grade level, the reading level of the test to prepare them for that. And that's why also in that scaffolded design where half the test is read, half is not, they very intentionally put the portions of the test that need to be read to them. You know, that's the type of questions where the reading level might be more difficult. So the test Illuminate will read to the student on those. So the best thing you can do is just encourage them to try their best and to sound out the words, and know that some parts it will read to them when it needs to until we get to the point where they are reading it all on their own. And part of the reason we do that also is we want to prepare them for second grade, where they will start the school year with no read aloud at all. And we have found that a lot of students, when they get to second grade, then that's even more, kind of alarming and, oh, wait, what's happening? I have to read the whole thing. So that's why we have a gradual release throughout the school year in first grade to help them get ready for second grade, where they will read all of their tests independently. All right, I see Marquita's hand raised. However, it looks like connection. I don't know if you can grab the microphone. We might have to wait a minute and see. Let's see. What other questions can we help you with?
Hello, teachers. Can y'all hear me now?
We can. Welcome.
Yes.
We're so glad.
Thank you. Y'all are doing a fantastic job. This is our second year. I just want to add that plug. My only question right now is regarding the attendance survey that was just sent out. There's a question here that says, which session did you attend? Today's date is not listed there. What do you want us to select?
Okay, let me see. Thank you for asking us that. I just opened up the survey so I could look and see what it.
That there's a new link that was put in the chat.
Okay, I was gonna say on my link I'm not seeing.
It is on the newest link.
Okay. So can somebody help me make sure we have the new link in the chat again? Thank you for clarifying that. Let's see. And thank you also for the shout out. We're so glad you're here for a second year at GCA. Thank you so much for adding the link. All right, we have about 6 more minutes. Are there any other questions we can help you with? And you're, of course, welcome to log out. We don't have any new information to present. I know I often hang out, just like to hear questions that others ask, because sometimes that's helpful. So no problem if you're doing that too. Yeah, hello. But we want to say again how much we appreciate you and how much we appreciate your partnership, because we could not do what we do without you at home working with your student too, and without all of your wonderful communication and just how well you partner with your teachers. So that is crucial to us and very important to us. And we really value you and thank you for spending your evening and your valuable time with us.
Yeah, I have one question. Can you hear me?
Your volume is very, very low. It is extremely hard to hear.
Can you hear me
yeah, Abdullah, we can't hear you. Are you able to type in the chat? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Miss Melissa Rivera, go ahead.
How are you?
Hi, how are you? We're great.
Good, good. Thank you for everything you're doing to help the parents. Um, I'm gonna go back to the timing question. I understand there's like a long time they can log in. But it's my first year, so he's not gonna have like a minute or 2 minute per question, right? It's gonna be like an open space to complete it.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
it's
you.
right. I see what you're saying. The 70 minutes that I mentioned on that test is not per question divided
Okay,
out or anything like that. It's the whole 70 minutes to get
okay.
through the test all at once. Does that make
That was
sense?
it. Yes, that was what I needed. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. That's a good
And
question.
thank you. I'm very grateful and just saying how well Miss Rhonda McKinney is doing.
Oh,
Just want to mention that we're loving her. Thank you.
thank
Take care.
you.
Bye bye.
Thank you so much. I can't even tell you how much it means to us and your teachers when you all share that feedback and you are having a good experience. And it's important to us to know when, we need to address something too. We need to fix something. So that makes my heart so happy to hear. Let's see what else is in the chat. We have about 3 more minutes. You could have assignments in other subjects too. So I saw the question about math and guided reading. There could be assignments in any contents module. We do take graded work from all subjects. Yep. Good comments in the chat. All right. Jessica, your question about how much time outside of school is expected for classwork, it really just varies by student. And, like the teacher shared, many days on lots of class times, there are class time to work on things. Sometimes there's more projects that are required outside of class. So it just kind of depends. And some of your student schedules vary also and, have different amounts of class periods compared to other students. So it really just varies a lot. There's not really a time I could put on it. It's a good question, but there's not really a time. The survey for tonight, you should be able to, let me put it in the chat. You should be able to click on that. Thank you, Ms. Hart. And then you can complete that. And we appreciate you doing that too. Thank you for the shout outs. There's a shout out there for Miss Lawrence. And I love seeing how many returning families we have here too. That makes me so happy. Jessica, there are some ways you can click to filter your sessions in Jigsaw. I believe it's up in the right-hand corner of the screen. There's a drop down. Look around when you're in there and you can filter the sessions. I cannot remember the options. Alphabetically, I believe, by time maybe. I'm not positive on that, but there are some filtering options in there you can play around with. All right, I know that Miss Veronica is about to close the room, so we just want to say thank you again so much. I know it is a lot to attend a meeting in the evening. Thank you to our teachers for coming, and thank you all for coming to be with us. We hope you have a great evening, and we look forward to a great rest of the school year.